Welcome everybody, Souldin of the Grin brothers here, and it's time for another episode of Tea Time. Now I shall just warn you in advance, if there are any sudden silences or slight pauses or gaps, that will be because I will have tried to edit out the dogs barking if they do so at any point. Usually I do most of these tea times at like the dead of the night or like early hours of the morning, but this time, because I'm the only one in the house, well, only human in the house, I decided now's a pretty ideal time to do tea time where no other person is going to be stopping me or interrupting me. However, there are still the dogs, there are still my cat, there are still chinchillas and fish, although they don't usually interrupt that much, or ever really. So there may be the occasional interruption. But in any case, welcome to another episode of Tea Time, and today's tea is Spice Imperial Tea. It's a black leaf tea bag, which has a very strong smell. Reading a little bit about it. Set against smooth black tea, this blend is enriched with the exotic taste of cinnamon bark and fragrant citrus peel, scented with spiky cloves and long dark pods of vanilla. From your steaming cup, these majestic flavours curl and twist. Let them take you on a journey to lands rich with the fragrance of spice. Yeah, and it's got a very powerful smell. I'm having it without milk because that's how they recommend it. I may have it again at some point, but I'll try it with milk. In any case, this tea time is one that's been... I've been a little bit late with it due to various matters, but this is my E3 discussion tea time, my E3 overview tea time. Last year I had like a tea time for each and every sort of like E3 conference, although I did combine some of the ones I didn't have as much to talk about, like I combined EA and Bethesda's conferences into one video. However, before I basically sort of like watched each of the conferences and made this like a dedicated tea time to try to make a dedicated tea time to each one. This year though, I haven't been quite as enthusiastic about E3, and with Nintendo not hosting a conference of their own, though I shall be talking about Nintendo towards the end of this tea time, I haven't been quite as like enthusiastic to go about doing an individual video for each one. So this will be a possibly slightly longer tea time about all of the E3 conferences and some of the games presented at E3. So this tea time will be E3 2016 discussion or overview or chat or ponderings. I'll figure out what to put for the title later, but E3 2016 will be in it obviously. Starting off with the first of the conferences, because I did watch each of the conferences, those being EA, Bethesda, Microsoft, Ubisoft and Sony. I also watched Nintendo's live streams, though I missed a bit here and there of games that didn't interest me. And unfortunately I did miss out on watching some of the Square Enix and Sega stuff, mostly because those live streams tend to have collided when Nintendo's were. But in any case, starting off with EA's presentation, EA's conference at E3 2016. And oh my gosh, EA's conference, yeesh, their presentation skills were terrible. It did, however, result in a really fun time for me and everyone else on the Pure Xbox live chat. In fact, I got to sort of give a shout out there because to all you folks I was talking with on Pure Xbox, you made that conference so entertaining. That was so much fun. I can't believe that at the start I managed to get everyone talking about the idea of road rash with horse racing. I'm not quite sure how we ended up on that conversation. I was talking about my hopes for a road rash game, and one of the Pure Xbox staff members has some like sort of bet going to, you know, that someone will announce a horse racing game at E3. Not sure why, but it was amusing nonetheless. But yeah, EA's actual presentation skills were absolutely dreadful in my opinion. Like, they kept talking about the word play, but never really showing us much gameplay, and there was just a lot of babble that really didn't lead to much. They did talk about esports, which, to be fair, they do have a leg in that, given, you know, the various games do cover the esports category, so I'll be fair enough to them, but it was a lot of talk without it being proper explanation for their games. However, on that note, there were actually a couple of games that EA presented that did surprise me, that, you know, were highlights, I'd say. I actually originally went through these conferences listing down what things were highlights for me, and EA had two games which were highlights. One of those, oddly enough, being Titanfall 2. Like, I have no interest in Titanfall, and I don't even like the FPS genre, with exception to whenever I play an FPS on my Wii, because that's motion control. You know, I love the FPS arcade cabinets, you know, House of the Dead and such, and the Wii allows me to do that. But in any case, Titanfall 2 actually looks a lot of fun. Particularly its single-player campaign. Its single-player campaign was what was getting me hyped for it. Like, I'm actually considering purchasing it, if at all possible. Because, you know, money situation with me. But Titanfall 2 actually interests me. Bravo EA, that single-player campaign looks awesome. And is the one thing that Titanfall clearly needed. Because I've seen a lot of people really hyped for Titanfall 2 solely on the basis of its single-player campaign. The other game that EA presented, which really interests me, was Fee. Much like with Unravel, EA have now started this initiative called EA Originals, where basically they're going to support a bunch of indie developers and help publish them, with them not receiving any of the cost. It will be the indies who receive the cost, not EA. I think this is like EA trying to bring up goodwill, which I can see them actually trying to do that. Whether it'll work or make up for their other, you know, deeds, who knows, but I'm quite happy to see that they'll be continuing to support such games such as Unravel, and in this case, Fee, which looks like a, how to describe it? Like a 3D Ori in the Blind Forest, but with an emphasis on stealth and puzzle sort of action solving rather than blitzing everything. Like, I was quite surprised when playing Ori in the Blind Forest how violent Ori is, really. But Fee looks like it's a much more timid experience? Yeah, let's go with that, timid. But it does look absolutely gorgeous, and I will consider it. I've still yet to get to Unravel admittedly, but again, money problems. I'm only basically purchasing those absolute must-have games. So, moving on from EA's then, I'll make one quick comment. FIFA 2017 is having a story mode. That's just, really bizarre. Very funny, but that was more because of the pure Xbox chat once again. Again, shout out to them. Great site and great folks who are on the site. So, thank you for that. Moving on then, the next conference was Bethesda's. And I'll be honest, Bethesda's didn't work because there wasn't much that appealed to me. Like, I think they had a fairly good conference overall given what they had to work with. They're not as big as some of the other companies and they don't have that many games to show off each time. Like, we once again had more Elder Scrolls Online because everyone loves Elder Scrolls Online, don't they? More talk of Fallout 4 despite it being out, but then they talked about its DLC. You know, it was all, with exception to announcing a new Quake, which I have no interest in, and like a sequel to a game called Prey, which I have no interest in. There wasn't really anything there for me with Bethesda. I will say that their main highlight, I'd say, the main game they focused on, was probably the most appealing one to me. Dishonored 2 looks lovely. Looks pretty good and all that, and it looks pretty nice. I do find it a little bit annoying that for a game where to get the effectively good ending you have to kill as few people as possible, they proceeded to then present the gameplay via showing how many all the skills you can use in order to murder as many people as possible. Weird that. I guess apparently stealth games aren't very good sort of showcases for E3. But I probably wouldn't ever consider getting Dishonored 2 myself. That'd be more of a Raffi sort of thing. He actually quite enjoyed the original Dishonored, so yeah, I really don't have anything to really comment on Bethesda. It's just like, I'm sorry, it's not their fault. It's just the fact that I don't care for their games. Their games have no appeal to me. Next up would be Microsoft, who honestly I feel had the best E3 presence this year. But I will say, like, oddly enough, there's a lot of games that I'm wanting after this year's E3. But the actual E3 conferences and all that, everything felt a bit lackluster overall. But I will say Microsoft's I felt was good. 7 out of 10 sort of thing. But it's like, if that's the best conference there was, that's a bit meh overall. But yeah, Microsoft's conference. The reason I feel they had the best conference, well, in particular, aside from the fact that I liked a lot of their games, I also feel they had the best manner of presenting things. Microsoft presented a lot of games, but they also came on stage to show off the gameplay, showing the people playing the gameplay, and explain them, talk about them. That's a point I'll bring up later, but Microsoft, you know, they showed off the games, but it wasn't just purely showing off games. They came down and they talked about it and they explained it. It does help that with stuff like the features they're adding, such as Xbox Club, or stuff like the fact that they revealed 2 new Xbox sort of line of systems, those being the Xbox S, like the smaller Xbox, so Xbox One S, the smaller Xbox One. Again, that I can still never get over the fact that it's called the Xbox One. That is such a silly name. Would have been much cooler as X1 if they were going to go with that theme, but I guess they wanted to keep the Xbox One, Xbox name in there. But yeah, they showed off the Xbox One S, which is a smaller sort of Xbox One, and they hinted at the sort of future of the Xbox One through Project Scorpio, which will be releasing sort of holidays next year, I believe. I honestly don't like the concept of Gen 8.5 consoles, and I'm disappointed that it's been confirmed to be a reality. I'm just going to stick to my original Xbox One, frankly. I don't mind that it may not have the 4K streaming or anything like that. It runs games well enough, it's got a nice enough controller, and apparently it'll be getting all the same games as the Project Scorpio Xbox One anyway, so I can live with just my Xbox One for my Xbox system of video gaming. But moving on to the highlights, the thing that I really enjoyed were, of course, the games. I'll admit that Scalebound didn't exactly have the best presentation shown off, but seeing more of Scalebound did please me because I like the look of Scalebound. It looks awesome. I feel they could have had a better way of presenting it there, but again, it's still probably my most hyped for game of 2017. Because they pushed it back from 2016, where it was originally my second most anticipated game. But yeah, really liking the look of Scalebound. They showed off gameplay of Recore, which now I'm really tempted to get it. Like, again, the money situation is a real problem because it comes out in like September, and like now I'm thinking, darn, I really want to play Recore, and I want to support it as an Xbox One exclusive at launch. But yeah, I'm not sure if I will do. Maybe I'll have a job by then. But Recore looks lovely. I like the sort of desert sort of feel. It's like it has a feeling of, like there isn't human life there, but it doesn't feel dead, as it were. It feels like it's inhabited from the looks of it, and it looks like there's a surprising amount of platform in this third-person shooter. It's more like a third-person shooter platform hybrid. But yeah, it looks really nice. We Happy Few was absolutely stunning. Lots of credit to that. It really pulls you in. I'd like to see some actual gameplay because at this point we haven't really seen proper gameplay. All we've seen is basically walking here and there. I mean, I guess some people can count that gameplay nowadays, but I don't. But the atmosphere and the setting just draws you in. It is creepy as heck. Top props for that. The games reel the Xbox One showed off included Cuphead and Bloodstained within said games reel, so of course that pleased me having a spot of those. I wish they could have actually been shown off because I don't think there is an E3 trailer for them. I've looked about, but I haven't been able to find an E3 trailer, but I've been able to find gameplay demonstrations of them and such, and they both look like they're coming along nicely. And not in the conference itself. I think this must have been announced on YouTube Gaming, but I found out about it later after Microsoft's E3 had ended. Phantom Dust. That Phantom Dust reboot they were doing, which then seemingly the company that were working on it quit, and so it seemed like the whole project was cancelled. It's not cancelled, sort of. From the sounds of it, instead of a reboot, they're sort of like remastering more like. They're going to remaster the original Phantom Dust and do various sort of tweaks to the gameplay, so apparently you get like multiplayer focused cards to jump into the online battles earlier in the game. Apparently it took longer to get them, and like stuff like that. So from the seems of it, it's not going to be a reboot, so like a whole new game based off the original like it was going to be, but Phantom Dust still exists, and well, it will actually come out in the UK, which it never did originally. So I'm really happy with that. Hearing news of the situation with Phantom Dust was something that I'd been putting on my wish list for Microsoft's E3 conference, and I'm so glad that that's come to light and it's still progressing. So, really happy with that. But yeah, overall, I really liked Microsoft's conference. It's pretty good. Then we move on to, actually, let me try my tea first. Spice Imperial, I think it should be cool enough. Whoa, flavour. It's pretty nice, actually. I mean, I wouldn't want to drink, I wouldn't like, if I had like a selection of teas, I wouldn't order it to drink, but compared to, say, black tea, black English breakfast tea, is much nicer to have. Like, if we were without milk, and I had to go, what tea to have? Well, aside from trying out green teas, I'd probably choose this. It's actually really nice, even without milk. Well, really nice comparatively. Like I said, it's not something I'd choose to have, but it's something that if someone served that for me, I'd be like, okay, sure, and drink it. Okay then. Moving on to the next conference. I was trying to avoid hitting the 15-minute mark, but oh well, unavoidable. Ubisoft's conference. And I guess in the overall presentation, I'd say that Ubisoft's conference was better than EA's on the sole ground that it was more entertaining than EA's. But my gosh, did it go on forever. Like, Ubisoft has more games than Bethesda, but they seem to talk about the same games for an even longer amount of time. I think it was like 2 hours long. Yeah, Ubisoft was just, and it dragged on, and so many of the games were like, just didn't appeal to me. Things worth commenting on though are the opening was weird as heck. It was related to Just Dance, but it was a heck of a way to open up because it certainly was memorable for as weird as it was. They also announced that the new Just Dance game was coming to the NX. Some people have been making a big deal about this, but I think they're basically just sort of gloating that Just Dance 2017 is coming to just about every platform, even the NX, which isn't even out yet, and of which no one seems to know why it is. Apparently Ubisoft must do. Same with Temco Koei, and same with Square Enix. It'll be interesting to see who else seems to have an idea as to what the NX is. But the two games that did appeal to me at Ubisoft, much like with EA, 2 games happen to be the thing that appealed to me. With Ubisoft, it was South Park The Fractured Butthole, which, okay, I like the look of the South Park Stick of Truth, but I never did end up getting it. I can't remember exactly why I didn't end up getting it, but I also like the look of South Park The Fractured Butthole, and that was actually pretty much the best part of Ubisoft's presentation because they had like the South Park creators come on stage, and they are such funny people. And the trailers and such for South Park The Fractured Butthole was absolutely hilarious, and if I had played South Park Stick of Truth, I'd have considered it, but I haven't. So I'm going to put it aside. Maybe in future I'll buy it because I'll have then actually played South Park Stick of Truth. I've got a similar problem with another game that I may sort of like mention offhand later, though this one I may actually be getting the original on the sole basis that Rafi's also interested in it, so we're going to split it 50-50 or like 30-70. Yeah, he hasn't got a job either, so, the money's tight. But the big game that really interested me, and, I'm feeling rather alone in this, is Watch Dogs 2! I actually really enjoyed the original Watch Dogs. I say really enjoy, but I'd probably only give it like a 6 out of 10 or a 6.8 out of 10, which would round it up to like a 7 out of 10 in theory. But I actually really enjoyed Watch Dogs. I love the concept of the hacking concept, and I love being able to take down foes without ever being spotted. Oddly enough, I am actually the stealthy person in that game, where I'm rarely ever the stealthy person. I guess because all the combat is done with guns, and I'm not a big fan of gunfights, because I'm pretty terrible at aiming. I can just about hit things via a sniper, but that's because I'm taking my sweet, sweet time shooting a person. But Watch Dogs 2 seems to emphasize the fact that you can get through the game without actually having to fight. You can actually just use the cameras whenever possible, so that's pretty cool. The new main character, I gotta say, Aiden in the original Watch Dogs started to grow on me a little. Like, I liked his sort of screw you, he said to DedSec, and he basically explained that everyone's an ass. And Aiden was basically summing him up. He was the Punisher. Like, I expected he'd end up being the Batman from the original pitch, but he's the Punisher. But I think I might prefer Marcus, if only because he's got a really nice cast of characters to be consistently interacting with. I'm not a fan of DedSec as a group. I think, much like Aiden, that they're a bunch of asses, and their war with Bloom, or Bloop, whoever, has got significant problems. Then again, they are the better side to Bloom, but then again, neither of them's a good guy, as it were. And everyone's going nuts over the emoticon goggle guy, Wrench, which, admittedly, I can completely agree with. His goggles are brilliant. But yeah, Watch Dogs 2, I'm actually really interested in it, really excited for it. And if I have money, I may consider purchasing it, or I'll put it on my Christmas list / birthday list and get it via then. But yeah, really cool. Moving on to the next conference, we then have Sony, which I've seen many people claim was the best conference, but once again, Sony had nothing to really appeal to me. Like, I was disinterested in so many other games. I will give credit, Horizon Zero Dawn looks nice, but not really swayed to it. The God of War doesn't even look like God of War anymore, frankly. It's like, what? This is just a game, or this is like a standard third-person action RPG with Kratos in it, not a hack and slash. I thought that's what the God of War series was. Yeah, Sony had a bunch of stuff that I didn't really care for, and... well, they had a bunch of stuff I did care for, but most of it wasn't really in the presentation. You know, which I'll get to in a sec. But anything else to really comment on Sony's first before I move on to what did appeal to me? Oh yeah, the presentation, that was it. Sony's presentation, a lot of people have been saying it was good because they just presented game after game after game. I don't think so. I never got a chance to properly absorb the game, and they never explained any of the games. Like, an explanation for why God of War seemed so different would have been handy. And, you know, I just didn't understand half the games I'm seeing because they never explained any of it. But let's focus on the good for a bit. Hideo Kojima just arriving on stage was one of the best things ever. His showcase of Death Stranding, I have no interest in the game, but I will say it was absolutely hilarious watching because it makes no sense. Like, what is that? Like, it's clearly Kojima. Like, Hideo Kojima, like, I'm not a big fan of the games he makes. Like, I haven't actually enjoyed playing them, but I love the sort of story and the tone he gives them, and he seems like a great guy overall. But so him arriving on stage and the reaction to him arriving on stage was like one of the best moments alone. Also, there's going to be a Spider-Man game made by Insomniac, which is quite surprising because everyone was expecting Sucker Punch as the potential group to be working on that. But I don't mind. Insomniac are great developers, and if the Spider-Man game's anything in terms of how well they were to make Sunset Overdrive, then I'd be quite interested in playing that. But yeah, all the games that I did like from Sony weren't actually part of the presentation. Gravity Rush 2, shown outside of the conference. The new King of Fighters 15 or 14, I can't tell. It's like the number's gone really big at this point. I think it's King of Fighters 14 or 15. Looks absolutely fantastic, but that wasn't part of the conference. They only got spotted in the games reel. And there was other stuff from, you know, that will be on the PS4 as an exclusive, such as I Am Setsuna, which also interests me. But Sony just didn't show those off, and what they did show off just didn't grab my interest. I'm also disappointed that the return of Crash Bandicoot is merely a bunch of remasters of the original trilogy. Because it's like, they don't really need remastering, I don't think. Like, I can go back and play those original Crash Bandicoot games, and they've been ported several times. You can download them off of quite a few of the Sony systems. And they're still really fun to play today, so it's like, do they really need remastering? I mean, I can understand with, like, remastering for a game, for a system like, say, the Wii or the Wii U, where the control method is so different that you have to make, like, it feels completely different, but Sony have stuck with the same controller all this time, so I'm not seeing the big deal with remastering Crash Bandicoot. I guess I just, you know, it's a cool thing, but it's a bit of a letdown if you were expecting a new game, a revival, as it were. Okay, so I've talked about each of the conferences. Let me have some of this tea again, because otherwise it will get cold. Okay, I should not have gulped that down like that. That was a bit too much flavour all at once on the tongue. Nice thing to sort of sip slowly. Not so nice to just gulp down. Oh, that's a lot of flavour. Anyway, Nintendo didn't actually have a conference, but I'm going to talk about them because they did have games at E3, and I really like Nintendo. So, first off, they did have a spot on YouTube Gaming, and it was to show off a bunch of their Nindies. And the Nindie stuff I felt was really good. It really got me excited for Nintendo's live stream. The Nindies include the PSVR exclusive game Severed, arriving on 3DS and Wii U, a game called Jotun, which is like a top-down action-adventure game with a lovely hand-drawn art style, and coolest of all was the stuff about Runbow. It's getting a version on the 3DS, it's getting a physical release with all the DLC on the Wii U, and it's getting Shantae as a playable character as DLC, which will, of course, just be, you know, already included on the Wii U and 3DS version. So that's really cool. If I can find a physical copy of Runbow Deluxe, as it's called, for the Wii U, I will pick it up. There was Pokemon at the conference, Pokemon Sun and Moon. I really enjoyed actually watching that. A lot of people were like, get back to Zelda, but I wish they'd stayed on Pokemon Sun and Moon more. I wanted to see as many of the new Pokemon as possible. As a fan of bug types, seeing Grubbin just warmed my heart. Like, really looking forward to that. And the new, not sure whether I'd stick with Grubbin because there may be other bug types later revealed, but he's the only Gen 7 bug type known so far, so currently he's a definite on the squad until other bug types are revealed. Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. Yeah, I had a brief break there because of the phone ringing. I'll answer that when I get round to it. Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE was also presented, and I've got to say, because of all that whole censorship debacle, I lost a lot of my enthusiasm for it. It was my most anticipated game of the year back at the start of 2016, but now it just kind of died down. But seeing the gameplay of it once again presented by the Treehouse, and I'm really excited for it again. Not my most anticipated title, I've been playing Kirby Planet Robobot after all. But I'm really looking forward to it, and I really hope to start playing it when it comes out. The censorship thing is a nuisance, but I'm not going to let that get in the way of me enjoying this game for its core gameplay. And the other big thing, and possibly my biggest highlight regarding Nintendo stuff, was the presentation of a new Nintendo IP. Yeah, they got a new one. Let's see people once again ignore it, because they have a tendency to do that. It's for the 3DS, and it's called Ever Oasis. It's made by the development team Grezzo, who basically have been handling all of the Zelda ports recently, like the Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D. And the best way I've seen people describe Ever Oasis is like a combination of Legend of Zelda and Fantasy Life, which is a absolutely fantastic combination, and I love the idea of it. You basically sort of have an oasis that you're trying to, it's also like desert, sort of Egyptian-y sort of vibed and themed. And you have an oasis and you're trying to get other people to come to your oasis. Also, you can build up a party to fight against this thing called the Chaos, which is this sort of like elemental thing which has somehow managed to kidnap your brother, which is a bit weird. But yeah, it looks really cool. I love the art style. It looks adorable, but at the same time, the gameplay looks, the gameplay has like nice action, and in a sort of Zelda-style fashion, you've got dungeons with a sort of decent amount of puzzle solving. And there's of course the obvious sort of elements of like building up your hometown and oasis. Like the shops are stocked with stuff that you have to find, which is a really cool idea. So I'm really looking forward to that. It gives me a 3DS game to be excited for in 2017. I guess I should comment on a couple of the negatives though. I probably should have started off with this, but I was just so excited to talk about the good points. I don't care for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. A lot of people are ecstatic about it, and I will admit it has lots of good points, but it does that one thing that is almost an instant turn off for me. It's open world. Like, big open world with very little direction, and it's like very little focus in my opinion, and it's like, I just don't enjoy these types of games. I've tried, but I just don't. So, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a pass for me. Likewise, from the themes of it, will also be this case with Paper Mario Color Splash. Paper Mario Color Splash looks lovely, but I just can't get over its gameplay sort of mechanics. Like, I was trying to think, maybe if they've improved the Sticker Star formula, like made up for its errors, they could like entice me. But from the looks of it, it is literally Sticker Star 2 in every way whatsoever. And so I'm going to pass on it, frankly. But on the good note, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE comes out later this month. So looking forward to that. We'll have a lot of fun with that. Ever Oasis looks cool. And I guess to cap off with everything, I'll just say a bunch of the games that were highlights for me. There's Bloodstained. I think it's Ritual of the Night. I'll put the correct title on screen now. I'll have them all like pop up here. You'll probably already seen them all. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. I'll have to get Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 first in order to truly enjoy Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, but that's the game I mentioned earlier that me and Rafi are both interested in, so we'll both sort of chip in to get Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1. He may not even have to, I may have a job by then. Cuphead always looks awesome. The new King of Fighters looks really cool. I may actually get that, even though it's a PS4 exclusive. Phantom Dust has been reborn a second time, technically. We Happy Few looks cool. Gravity Rush 2, I'm excited for, but at the same time, I want to play Gravity Rush 1 first to see whether I actually truly like the game before I dive into Gravity Rush 2. I Am Setsuna still looks absolutely lovely, and of course, I love turn-based RPGs. Rainbow Deluxe, if it has a physical release, I'm totally going to get that game. Scalebound always looks cool. Could have had a better presentation, but I've pretty much already decided that I'm getting this game next year. It doesn't need to try and convince me anymore. Pokemon Sun and Moon, again, it's one of those games that you don't need to try and convince me. I'm totally going to get it. Recall looks really cool. Hopefully I'll have a job for the sole purpose that I can actually buy that game when it comes out as soon as September. Yeesh, that's close. Watch Dogs 2, I'm kind of alone in being super excited for it, but I was kind of alone in being a really big fan of the original Watch Dogs. So yeah, really looking forward to Watch Dogs 2. Hopefully I'll be able to get it or put it on as a Christmas or / birthday list. Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE, my hype for it has been reinfused. I'm enthusiastic about it once again. I probably should have come up with a better term for that. Shantae Half Genie Hero wasn't at any of the conferences, but it had a trailer shown, and my gosh, I love the look of that game. I'm really hoping the physical release comes out over here, but chances are it's probably not, unfortunately, because I don't think XE published in Europe and the UK. But I'm really hoping that Shantae Half Genie Hero's physical release on Wii U can at least get over here. If not, I will make do with downloading it, but you know how I am. I always prefer to get physical. And of course, Ever Oasis. I'd say ultimately Ever Oasis was probably my biggest highlight of all. Like, I'm really interested in that game. And like I said, it'll be a 3DS game I'll definitely see about getting when it comes out next year. So those are my thoughts on the E3 2016 conference. This is going to be a pretty long video. Hopefully it won't knack in my laptop too much trying to render this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about E3 2016 and its various games. Feel free to share your thoughts below. I'd love to have a conversation with any of you in the comments below. So cheerio everyone!